TikTok. It's time to rock. Welcome to the 5150 show, also known as the British Electric Blues Show. Simon.
Oh, we on? Sorry, I'll stop.
Are you cheating? Are you getting your notes?
No, sir.
Are you getting
no,
your
sir, not.
You're getting your notes. You know the rules. The rules are that you have to have your notes 3 hours before we go live.
No, I'm still trying to figure out why I'm here. You said something about a loose windscreen, and the rest of it made no sense.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it, John. Loose windscreen.
You know what's going on.
Good to see you, John.
Yeah.
John ZD351, folks. If you guys don't already know who he is, you should do. He's a regular on our channel. There he is there.
Yes, the regular on the channel.
He hasn't requested
Good to see
isolation.
you. Hey, I'm getting these messages. We're going to get gate crashed.
Yes. Message coming in from above.
But by somebody from in Tasmania.
Tasmania.
Yes.
Oh, here he is. How's it going?
All the way from Tasmania in my bedroom.
What happened?
Oh, yeah.
Does that mean I'm off the hook?
I went back to the future or some way. I don't know. It's what happens when you're playing an 80s tribute band. You end up all over the place. You don't know where you are. I mixed up the weekends, so it's next weekend. I'm in Tasmania. So.
You cocked up, bro. You cocked up, did you?
I did. Look up. We're all human, and look, it's pretty hard being perfect. And you know, I slip up sometimes.
Yeah. Can't read a calendar. Well, there we are. It says it all.
These electronic calendars get me. You know what I mean? You sort of flick 1 week ahead, and it shows you the fortnight's weekend. It's crazy. Anyway, all good.
No.
Oh, good to have you here anyway with us. We got a message, folks, a couple of days ago from the backdoor man that he was going to be jumping on because of the cock up with the date. So we thought, oh yeah, okay. And John thought that was an invite for him to bugger off, and we said, no.
No, that's just the start of it. Yeah. We need someone to do the hard work, John.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No. What we need, bro, is obviously we need some experts on some of the albums that we do, and clearly and obviously, without a doubt, if you guys are regulars to the channel, and we're developing a bit of a playlist now, Brad, Simon, and John on Bruce Springsteen albums, and we were just mentioning it in the green room, folks. You know, seriously, you know, he's a significant songwriter, not only for himself and for his band, but for a shitload of other acts. Simon, you know, he's written songs for and propelled their careers. So the fact that we're developing a bit of a catalogue there on our channel, another significant thing for us to be proud of, Simon.
Yeah, indeed. Robert Gordon, the Pointer Sisters, and of course Southside John and the Asbury Dukes.
Yep.
So you don't know any of his stuff, check it out.
Oh, and he's a significant hottie too, according to Helene O'Hara.
Oh well. Helene, back from creating havoc in Florida, apparently. You've all gone.
Quiet.
No.
Green room ramblings.
I thought we were listing people's other versions of his songs, but yeah, you all got muddled.
Oh well, I know. Yes, we could work. Well, there's one track on here, isn't there? Or that was written for this album that is a well-known Southside John and the Asbury Dukes track.
Did end up as a cover.
Undercrack. Yeah. So yeah, he's done. Oh, he spent his life writing songs for other people and then taking them and
Yeah, and there's a couple of questions I'm going to ask you guys at the end of the intro, if that's okay, to help people who may not be up to play with Bruce Springsteen. I'm certainly one of those people. To be fair, I've said to you guys before when we've gone live, I don't know a hell of a lot about Bruce Springsteen at all. I just know some of his songs on the radio. And one of the good things, John, we've said this again a few times, one of the good things about doing this show is that when you get an album and you listen to it for a few days, for a week, it kind of puts you into a headspace where you kind of think about a lot of things that you wouldn't necessarily, Brad, think about with Bruce Springsteen, you know. So I want to make one reference point before John gets into the intro. Well, we've got a couple of other things that we want to talk about. Brad's got to do a shout out. But one thing I want to mention to you guys, I watched the documentary the other day, the one where he's filmed in black and white that came out in 2020. Letter to You.
Oh, the making of the album,
And there's one point that I think made the penny drop for me, Brad, as he made this reference. He said, I've been in a conversation with some of you people for 45 years. Wow. I've been in a conversation with some of you people for only a couple of years. The point is, I've been engaged in a conversation, and that's what it's about. And I thought, I get it. I get it, Brad.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Does.
He's eloquent, isn't he? He's very eloquent about what he does. If you watch any interviews and stuff, he's very eloquent and stuff, which is I personally find quite attractive. But, but that's interesting. I mean, absolutely. It's a really good way of looking at it, isn't it? Your career.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. I like him. I've never really dived too heavily into his back catalogue and whatnot. I pretty much know. I've heard this album that we're doing, but I've never really given it a chance until this week. Once I knew you guys were ranking, I thought I'd have a listen regardless. And then when I realised I was going to be on the show, I went, geez, I better dive a little bit more into it. So it's been really, really good. And I mean, that's the wonderful thing about doing these sort of shows too. We get to, deep dive into some of these, artists that we're familiar with in a sense because of their popularity and whatnot, but you've never really given them the chance because you're too selfishly indulging in your own, favorites, let's say, so to speak. But it's always good to open your horizons, and there's such a broad spectrum of music out there, and Bruce Springsteen's obviously one of them that I haven't really given too much attention to over the last little while. So the album's familiar to me. I've heard it, but it's been well over a decade. Well over.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a hard thing to do because as the years go by, you more music comes out, you discover more things. You don't necessarily throw much of your old back catalogue away, and you've got to find the time to listen to it all.
That's true, John. And the thing is, I've still got a lot of artists that I love that I haven't listened to in a decade or so because it just you start listening to other things and you get hooked up, and then all of a sudden, you'll go through your MP3 list or whatever, or Spotify now. You go, oh man, I haven't listened to Ordinary Average Guy by Joe Walsh for over a decade, and you put it on, you're like, wow, this is not, I love this. I love that. It's great rediscovering, and some of those albums like this one is one of those little gems. It's great. It's a time capsule for Bruce Springsteen. You can tell it's in that era. I won't spoil it because I've got a bit to talk about it with the rankings and that. But it's definitely an eye-opening album for Bruce Springsteen, I thought.
Cool. All right, so you want to do... Oh, I interrupted someone, sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, carry on. I was just going to ramble on. No, carry on. Brad's going to do a shout out, is he?
Yeah, I was going to get Brad to do a shout out and then get you, Rock Professor, to do a shout out to the folks in the chat, and then get John to kick off the intro.
Yeah, well, I was going to be a tiny bit little better prepared than I am for this, but shouts out to Alex Van Halen, who's basically, put out the pre-ordering for his book and whatnot, but he's put out on Spotify and a couple of other areas on the internet a 4.5 minute sort of little sample of the book. I think it's like an audio sample, they call it. And, there is a link to it on Spotify. It comes out in 17 days. And I tell you, after listening to this 4.5 minutes or whatever it is, I was like, wow, this book's gonna be heavy. I can tell it's gonna be pretty heavy. There's a lot of depth to that analog, the intro that he's done for the book. It seems like there was part of it that was pretty heavy straight off the bat, especially when he talks about hearing, Ed take his last breath and things like that. And he was there when he took his last breath, and you can't take that stuff that he did with him and blah, blah, blah. So I'm assuming, guys, I did a bit of a deep dive in the last week as well and reread the Red Rocker, his book. So I reckon there's going to be a bit of answers back to it. I was a bit sort of hoping that it wouldn't happen, but now after hearing that, he was grieving, but, in that grief, there was initially like anger. There was already, he had all these emotions going through. So let's, wait and see what comes. But I'm probably the most eagerly awaited book I've wanted to read, to be honest with you, because after hearing that, I'm definitely going to get the audio book, and I've already pre-ordered the hardcover book for my collection as well. But it's going to be very interesting to hear Alex's, accounts of his brother from the word go. He talks about in that 4.5 minutes, it's very heavy. He talks about how, he remembers he was 2 years old and his mum telling him to be quiet, not to wake Eddie up as a baby. So, yeah, there you go. He remembers from 2 years onwards. So there's going to be quite a lot of depth in this. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to listen to it and what your thoughts are on it, but I dare say if you're a big Van Halen fan like we are, go and check it out. And if anything, listen to the audio book, I reckon, because it's going to be Alex reading it, which gives it even more depth, guys, I think. So shouts out to Alex. Yeah. It
is on. I know you sent somebody sent a link through. It is on Spotify here. I just had to go and find it as a thing. Clearly that link went to sort of Australian Spotify, and then it wouldn't do it for me.
You should be able to find it pretty easily through the search.
Yeah. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say before we get into the show, guys. That's it.
When's it out, Brad? Couple of weeks.
On 17 days, I've got the counter up on my screen here. 17 days, 42 minutes and 25 seconds. Yeah,
that you know exactly when it's happening. When you're supposed to be on the show, you haven't got a clue.
Yeah, no,
anything more accurate.
I've got it pre-saved. I've already ordered the hardcover version of the book from Amazon, but I decided I'm going to listen to Alex read it. I think that'll give it a lot more weight.
Were you able to get a signed copy, Brad?
Well, Mikey Mojo is going to get his copy signed, but I'm not sure,
right.
mate. Yeah, he's going to the book signing, but that would be amazing. But I'm grateful as well that I have got Alex's signature on my CD somewhere. I hope. I don't know where it is actually. It's somewhere.
I know, yeah.
At Van Halen 3, so it wouldn't be the first signature I got from Alex. But that being said, Mikey Mojo, another great friend of the channel, is going to his book signing. So he said he's going to do a rundown on our channel of what it was like to meet Alex. Ooh. And hopefully get a little video and a couple of selfies. I said, make sure you get a couple of selfies. So Yeah.
Make sure you get Alex Van Halen saying, "What's the 5150 show?"
Oh, that would be gold. Yeah, that would be gold. Might actually, Simon, that's a great idea. I think Andrew or myself or any of us should message him and say, make sure you get a video of Alex saying, make sure you watch the 5150 show, or I'll come and get you.
really
message
really
him
annoy
now.
him. Yeah, really annoy him no end. I mean, Mikey and Alex Van Halen will be thrilled to be doing shout outs for fan shows.
Yeah. If I know Alex well,
if I know my friends have asked you to say,
if I know Alex well, I reckon he'll tell us to get effed. But that's just because he's a hard guy. He's a very hard guy. He's the tough one out of the two brothers. So yeah. But Alex, we love you, and good luck with your book. And obviously, you can tell in your voice when you're talking about your brother, you're still grieving. So it's going to be great for you to have your say, I think, and get it out there, and then you can maybe start, letting go a lot of that of what you're holding on to. So anyway, we've got Bruce Springsteen, guys. Bruce Springsteen. So yeah, who's doing the intro for
John's
John?
doing the intro.
Has anyone got anything?
Are we saying hi to the chat peoples or going straight?
Yeah, I need to say hi to everyone in the chat first. I do. So good morning, Bent Tom. Good morning, Tom. Hope you're okay. We're doing well. Gret Zeppelin, John ZD 351. Everywhere. Ellen, of course. Good morning, Ellen. Hope you're well. The cold is going away, Ellen, but slowly. The long tail. Slightly annoying. Helene O'Hara. Good morning, Helene. Hope you're well. And Brad, Gret. What's we got here? I think that's everybody who's made some comments. Anybody else make a comment saying hi, and we'll give you a shout out. It'd be great. But good morning to everyone. Hope you're all good. There we go.
If there's any lurkers, I'll invite you all to say hi, so we can say hi back to you.
Yeah,
Yes.
The lurkers.
Yes. All right, gentlemen.
Right. So.
All right, off we go then. In the assumption that we wouldn't have Brad today, the boys invited me in and straight away suggested another Bruce album. I said, let's, not make me the Bruce guy all the time, but every other album I could think of, I thought, maybe Brad might like to be there for this one. So let's go for this. And a couple were suggested, but I brought up this one. I thought it's an interesting album, and some of the things about it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I figured as far as having something to talk about and actually having an interesting discussion, I think this one's probably one of the ones that you could say a lot of things about. So basically, if you've seen our other shows, we did touch upon two of Bruce's biggest albums being Born to Run and Darkness on the Edge of Town. Born to Run being his third, Darkness being his fourth. This is his second album, and preceded Born to Run by about a year and a half, nearly 2 years, mainly because of the length of time it did take them to get Born to Run happening. But both his first and second albums were released at either end of 1973, and some places even have the mistaken dates for this one, but it was out in early November 73, and it was basically recorded in a few sessions, and using his band that he'd been playing live with over the past year and a bit. So it's less of a what was originally, as far as the record company was planned, they thought his first album was going to be very much a solo acoustic-y type sort of singer-songwriter album, and he fronted up with his band. And this one even more so. I can't remember where I read it, but it was someone had described it as a lazy hanging out summer kind of album. and it definitely has that vibe running through it. There's a lot of mentions of the Asbury Park boardwalk in one of the songs. A couple of songs very New York City based, but definitely the real mention of the boardwalk is in one song, but really does permeate the feeling of the whole album, and definitely the all the songs together. Not quite as a thematic. Not that they're really concept albums, but we touched upon our view of Born to Run and Darkness on the Edge of Town having a very strong theme, very connected viewpoint all the way through it, through the both of them. And this album, whilst it doesn't have a tight narrative thread running through it between the songs, they definitely all do come together to paint a very cohesive picture and vibe that the album puts out. I remember listening to his first album, though, that it wasn't strictly just a singer-songwriter solo acoustic type album, which he would do later on in his career, accidentally. But that's a story for another show. I've always felt his first album had almost like a sketchbook quality to it, and this album, to me, if I have to describe the pictures in my head, are definitely like looking at some old Super 8 home movies that were filmed in the 70s, and it's just got that grainy, sort of washed out but colourful look about it. So they're the images that come to my mind when I listen to this music, and yeah, I find it again. We talk a lot about album sequencing and the albums of the time that came out in the vinyl era having definitely two sides. There is I've always considered side 2 of this album to be just like a perfect little 25-minute rock opera and a suite of 3 songs that are just amazing. So yeah, I know this album's got a few idiosyncrasies, and it's definitely sort of an embryonic look into what Bruce's songwriting and instrumentation and arrangement and album making would become. Approaching it from me first discovering Bruce in 1984 when Born in the USA became a phenomenon around the world, and started to delve through his back catalogue. I discovered this album as a 16-year-old, and probably the perfect time for it, because again, this album really has a vibe and sort of like a feel of that young sort of time where you're just starting to become an adult, and a lot of it is really just feels like what was going on in my life at that time, and would go on in my life in the next few years as you sort of try to figure out your place in the world, and it's something that sort of like I was able to, even 10 years down the track and as a teenager in a completely different country, sort of really resonate with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome, John. Well done. Well done. Wow.
Now, Simon, you mentioned that Darkness was your first Bruce album.
Yeah, it's
around about
that's where I came in.
So obviously you went back to this one as well.
Yeah, I did. Via Born to Run, and then back to the first 2 and things. And so, yeah, that was a kind of, 78, 79, that to late 70s. So I'm sort of 5 years behind, but not so much. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that those first 2 albums, the first one are sort of, is the kind of new Dylan type thing, isn't it? It's kind of where, but this one is not, I don't think, not that at all. And we'll get into what I think about what this album is. But I think that those first 2 albums, with their kind of dense imagery, characters, and all sorts of things, much more kind of as you say, kind of youthful. There's a youthful exuberance to them and things. And then, but it's not like Born to Run. It's kind of, you know, Born to Run is a different thing to these first two albums, I think, you know, and definitely a shift away into more of a rock thing, whereas this is more of a sort of R&B soul kind of, the old version of R&B, not the new version. And that's really interesting. And, you know, and you could see that kind of band thing with the horns, with the, you know, that integrating. You could see the soul thing, you know, and that R&B and that influence coming through. And one other really important influence that I'll get to later, but that I think give it a vibrancy. I think, you know, that it's, you know, that boardwalk life that clearly he's been living for a while down in Asbury Park, you know, clearly reflected in this. But also, I think I feel like there's, you know, songs like Sandy, you know, he's moving on. You know, this boardwalk life is behind us, kind of thing. You know, I've got to move on and go somewhere else with this, because, you know, it's otherwise I'm just going to be a bar band on the boardwalk, you know, kind of thing. And I have grander aspirations than that. So I think some of that is about those aspirations and about building, you know, something that's different. And I think, you know, as I say, some of these songs, you can see the links between some of the songs on Born to Run. You can see that, you know, there's a kind of link.
Definitely.
But by the same token, Born to Run is a really stylistically, production-wise, a different kettle of fish to the first two albums completely, you know. And I take your point. I think that that on this album he's never been more part of a band, in a sense, you know. It's never been more the E Street Band as a cohesive collective, whereas you move into Born to Run and, you know, he's writing all the songs, he's arranging them all, it's become him and the band. But I think that's less of the case here, and I think it's more the band shape things together, and you know, more in a way, you know, he brings more skeletal things to the studio and then they shape them up. You know, he's got fantastic music.
From what I've read, a lot of these songs were played as a band, and then he'd strip them down, keep the basic tracks, and then he'd start bringing the band back in over the top of them. So a lot of the songs were like, you know, sort of basically pumped out, stripped down, and rebuilt.
Yeah, completely. Just to give you a sort of a bit of context to kind of what we're talking about. This year, 1973, we had "Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player" by Elton John, "Houses of the Holy," "Dark Side of the Moon," "Aladdin Sane" by David Bowie, "Goat's Head Soup" by the Rolling Stones are all in this year, to kind of give you some musical context about the time we're talking in. I don't think any of them are particularly like the Wild, the Innocent, the E Street Shuffle, but that's the kind of context that we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's definitely putting it between the two albums. It's in between. You can see that it's letting go of the verbosity of the first album and moving towards what became the masterful imagery that he was able to paint with a lot fewer words on Born to Run. So definitely a good sort of like signpost along the way that his artistic vision developed through his albums. And I think definitely you can see that evolution go then through Darkness, and then what The River and Born in USA became is definitely sort of like, if you pick a couple of albums far apart from each other, you think, oh, that's kind of like a wild swing, but definitely there's an arc through the first 6-7 albums that he did.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's a growth thing, isn't it? You know, it's you're honing your craft and you're getting more, you know, finding out who you are, and then, I mean, I know in Springsteen's case, finding out who he's writing about. You know, that the characters start to really get into focus about, you know, the people he's writing about and those characters, and then following their stories through Born to Run and into Dark Side on the Edge of Town and The River as well, particularly. Yeah. Those three albums have an arc, a character arc to them as much as anything else.
And so, with Simon and I rambling on of how much we've listened to this over the years, obviously our two friends here haven't been
no idea
close to this album. I wouldn't say no idea, but obviously haven't been as close to this album as us. So it's always an interesting perspective from someone who's listening to something. Either Brad mentioned before that he hadn't heard it in a while, and I think this is one that Andrew hasn't really been exposed to so much before studying for the show. Am I correct in
I
that?
never heard it.
Yeah, never heard it at all.
Never heard the album at all, and only ever heard one song on the album. So completely new to me. Brad.
Well, for me, it definitely showcases a very young Bruce Springsteen, and after hearing what you gentlemen are talking about, it gives me a bit of a better understanding of where he's gotten to throughout his career. But this is, you listen to this album, you can hear a lot different to what I expected, and I have heard this a long time ago, this album, but it was for me when I first put it on. Oh, I remember this. I remember that. But never really delved heavily into this this album or Bruce Springsteen at that point. I mean, I played a few of his songs in cover bands and stuff like that, and I've always been very aware of Bruce Springsteen. Something about Bruce Springsteen in this particular point in time, and I know you guys may have even mentioned it. On this record, you can hear him developing his voice a lot. Like you can hear it in the songs. You can hear, obviously the different styles on the album. There's some complex arrangements as well. Obviously some extended instrumental sort of pieces as well, which, if you look at sort of Bruce Springsteen as he progressed, he obviously became better at arranging, writing, and his vocal obviously progressed each album moving forward, because his vocal here still sounds very tender. He's got a reflective tone to his voice. It's powerful at times, but not the powerful Bruce Springsteen voice that I'm quite used to. So obviously I was very surprised. And, a lot of understated sort of musical parts going on there, but the guitar work on a lot of this record is brilliant. There's some brilliant guitar playing, solos, rhythm guitar playing. I mean, being a guitarist, I always can't help myself but pick out guitar playing on the record.
Yeah.
It's always there. If there's no guitar on the record, I'm always a bit disappointed, because, hey, I'm a knucklehead guitar player. I mean, look at my room. It's just guitar stuff. So, and that surprised me as well. But I guess hearing this album, there's Dylan-ish sort of vibes going on. You can hear a lot of his influences coming through, 100%. And again, John, I commend you. It's a great album to pick to pieces, which is what we're going to do. So yeah, well done. Great album.
Yeah, and at this point of the band, Bruce was the sole guitar player. So every bit of guitar in this album you hear is him. Yeah,
well, let's see. That being said, he's a great guitar player, and obviously he focused a lot more on being the front person as the career went on. But he's still a great guitarist. Still some great guitar work on this record. So yeah.
He's
one of the
really
things I'd say,
he did have a bit of a rep as a gunslinger with the guitar.
What was that, sorry?
So in the early club days, he did have a bit of a rep as being, like a bit of a gunslinger with the guitar. Like he was, he wasn't just a guy that strummed because he sang. He was known as a guitar player as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, you can really tell when you listen to this record. The guitar playing. He was right into like playing right for the song, 100%. The musically. He's musically minded is what I was trying to find with his guitar playing. He syncs the guitar parts perfectly for the song. They're even very lyrical. The solos, some are very lyrical. When I say lyrical, they sound like someone singing. So very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. But I think he's always viewed his guitar playing in the context of the band, and not, it's if he's going to do solo, it's just a small part of the song. It has a place, but he's, as John says, if you get, rarely does he, in any of his albums does he kind of let fly with, I think probably, if you around 78 when he was doing, they did quite a long versions of Prove It All Night when he had quite long guitar solos at the beginning, kind of thing that really show off. If you want to go and check those out, they show off his prowess as a guitar player, I think, really well. But for the most part, all his albums, it's integrated into the songs, and and a lot of songs they have sax solos and not guitar solos, a lot of things like that. So I think he's always thought of it as being integration into the band, and not something that not a showing off thing, and not a kind of thing that he just pushes out to the fore very much. It's all about the song.
So how do you find it, Andrew, getting into something brand new?
Oh, it's an interesting album. I'll keep my comments for the tracks, if that's okay. Yeah. Thank you, John. I'll keep, because I think that will suit my impressions of the album better, rather. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I reckon we should go for the track by track.
Dive in.
There we go.
Deep dive. Yeah.
All right. So so the album is called The Wild, the Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle. So not really a title track, but the song title is mentioned in the title of the album for the first track, being the E Street Shuffle. One thing I was going to mention, and I forgot to, just in talking about the album, how the title came about. So Wild and Innocent was actually a 1959 movie that sort of the name sort of stuck in his head, and the E Street Shuffle was assumed to be kind of a dance, but also referred to the times where their van had broken down and they had to sort of like carry their equipment down the road back to Davy Sanchez's place on East Street. And so it was known as the E Street Shuffle because they're all shuffling along, dragging guitars, amps, and what have you. So there you go. So, but from that, it inspired him. I'll mention it in a few of the other rankings as well. And I held up a copy of it on our Darkness show. Bruce is well known for having these notebooks that he would always be writing in and putting all his ideas down and going back to get ideas for songs and move stuff around. And he'd write another song and just didn't have a line, but remembers one that he put on something else how many years ago. And so, he's pulled this title out of his archive, his notebook archive. And there was a thing that I was reading. I've got some notes up ahead of me, so pardon me if I seem like I'm looking in the wrong direction, because I'm cheating on some stuff that I've written down. But this was something that I only discovered this week when I was doing a bit of research. So the album starts off with a cacophony of I'm backing talkwards again, of different horns all being played by various members of the band, and they all start off all over the place, and then they just sort of coalesce into a cohesive harmony, and then the guitar starts and off the song goes. But apparently this was a song that was based on an old song by the name of The Monkey Time, which was lost me spot here. It was the band. It was Major Lance. So it was an old R&B tune from the 60s. It was a hit that I've never heard of. But so the main sort of like type of the rhythm of the song and the riff of the song was kind of based around that. And then he put his lyrics on top. And then he pinched another different riff for the end bit from Curtis Mayfield's Move On Up. So, this is a very vibrant and sort of like a very upbeat number. And as an album opener, really sets the mood for the way that this album is. Again, his first album seemed to have very much of a sketchbook quality about it. This one, all of a sudden, just burst out of the gate and has got a real party feel right from the start. And again, one of the hallmarks of Bruce's early work is a bunch of characters that have fantastic nicknames that only the mafia could beat. The type of thing where he doesn't have to tell you the story about the person. He says their nickname, and it's the type of nickname that tells you exactly who they are and what they've ever done. So it's a great little listen, and really is as funky as probably the band never got to again. This album does have a few less rock and roll and more. There's one song's a bit jazzy, one song's a bit funky. There's as we go through the songs, we'll comment on the variation of them all. But this is a great tune that it's one of those tunes that's never been a favourite, but it's always a good time when it's on. So I'd never sort of like get the idea to skip it. I rarely sort of like would choose to put it on a playlist or something like that. But it's a great number. Definitely gives you the setup for the album, and I'd give it a 7.
So, yeah, it's the thing that really sticks out of me about this record. I mean, I think you're right, John. There's that kind of funky stuff, and there's even that clavinet at the beginning, isn't there? Do you think, oh, we're going into Stevie Wonder territory here? Not quite, but of course, David Sanchez on keyboards and not Roy Bittan, which is a very interesting difference between the two. I mean, David Sanchez coming from that kind of black soul jazz thing. That he went on to do a lot of jazz stuff, whereas Roy Bittan comes from a kind of show tunes, Broadway type of background. So there's a real difference there in the way that what he plays and how he plays. And David Sanchez is a fantastic keyboard player, and there's lots of keyboards on here, And I think that interestingly, quite a lot of these songs were written on piano, because I mean Bruce writes on guitar and he writes on piano as well. So pick out the ones that are written on piano. I think this is probably a guitar one, but I think he then takes in the basics, and then David Sanchez took them to places that Bruce is not able to take. But I think that's really interesting that is, as you say, that those unfocused. It says here are the horns, here's that funky chimey guitar that is very kind of funky that he doesn't do now really at all. It sets the scene. It's got it has all those kind of early Springsteen, tropes in it. With, I mean, it starts off sparks fly on E Street where the boy prophet walketh handsome and hot. Kind of it's a bit of self-referencing stuff there. The little girl's souls grow weak when the man-child gives them the double shot. It's that kind of like lazy, kind of laconic style that he's singing at this time as well. But it's I've got an album called Live at the Main Points, which has some of these songs on it, kind of, and they're kind of quite loose and funky and kind of, and kind of sort of he's not, but they sound kind of in a sort of stoner thing, it's kind of like somebody's been around the back drawing on a few, but I don't think that certainly not the case in Bruce's thing. And as you said, John, that kind of, that kind of, it's a kind of that, because he takes the title from a movie, which, clearly does with Badlands and, gets more cinematic as he goes through. But this is kind of, where the cinematic, there is a cinematic edge and an influence in here. I think it's important to say, and in some ways, the E Street Shuffle to me is like a precursor to 10th Avenue Freeze Out kind of thing.
Yeah.
Some of it's about him, whereas 13 equals the Bad Scooter, in 10th Avenue, and searching for a groove, and but that description, that vivid kind of colourful description of of that life and the characters and things that we're going to meet in this record, it's all set out here. I think it's got great. I think there's fine guitar solo, but again, the guitar is within the context of the song. There's lots of details in here, aren't there? I'll make a I'm going to do this a lot, but I'm going to make a special shout out. I think Gary W. Tallant's bass playing on this is just great.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I think he seems to just really pull it out, and some of it is noticeably, really great. And so hats off to Gary Tallant. There's a man with a lot of talent, as his name befits his name. But lots of stuff going on here. Loads of horns, keys, swapping things around. Funky guitar and those kind of that Latin salting at the end. But so I'm very familiar with this. To me, it's one of the great tracks. I give it a 10 out of 10. Clearly, never a skip. Brad, I think, is next. Are you doing next, Brad? Yes. Or are you last? You're next.
I think
Sorry,
Andrew.
Yeah. Thanks, Brad. Thanks for keeping an eye on that. Thanks, guys, and thank you, Helene and Alan, for your rankings. Never heard the track before. Really blew me away. I would never have thought Bruce Springsteen would have sung, performed, or written a song like this ever, Brad. That funky feel, but very much a product of the time, and I get it. I made a reference to you guys at the beginning of the show where Springsteen's talking about a dialogue and a conversation that he's having with people. So clearly this song is a conversation that he's having with people in 1972, 1973, John, given the funky vibe. When I first heard it and heard those horns and all that, it reminded me of that Bob Dylan song, Rainy Day Woman, Simon. Everybody must get stoned. It has those the horns coming in. I thought, this is a little bit cheeky. But yeah, I dig that. I dig that kind of reference. I think that he may or may not be making. But I certainly got that impression that was a big influence. But the funk, when the funk comes in. And again, I've got a pinch, and it's one of the things, Brad, of going third and fourth, isn't it? Other people are going to say it all, but one of the reasons why the funk works is because of the rhythm section and the bass and the drums, especially on this track. That I don't think we got, guys, on other albums that we've discussed to the depth that they are audible, Brad, if that's a word, in my ears on this album. So I kind of like that. Like I say, John, first time I ever heard the track, surprised the shit out of me that Bruce did this. I've given this, Brad, 9 out of 10, and it's never a skip.
E Street Shuffle. I think it's there's like a bit of a false start, maybe. Is that what you would call it at the very, very start of the song? And I was kind of like, maybe I've messed up playing the album properly. And I'm trying to fix it, And I'm trying to
tuning up. They're not really together.
I thought it must be an ending of another song. I'm like, what the hell's going on? But anyway, once I got past that, it got me once or twice. I think it's a fantastic track. It's a great opener. It's got that brassy sort of thing going on. It's got a lot of funk to it. Listening to it, when I was training at the gym, I had it on my headphones and kind of felt like you put yourself in the middle of a street party. That's what it kind of felt like, the vibe. It was very much that. I think the vocal performance there's a lot of energy in his voice. He's got that raspy thing going that we know well. It's a playful vocal performance. The rhythm guitar work is really funky, and there's let's say I did hear with the whole overall tune of the song a very Stevie Wonder feel. I think you mentioned that, Rock Professor, maybe. I think it was you. Someone mentioned that. Yeah, it was you. And then the bass line, I was like very, very interested in that bass line, very funky groove going on there. And I was like, this is very out of like left field for what I expected to be Bruce Springsteen. You know what I mean? And I just thought, wow. And the drumming is fantastic. There's some really great drumming there. It's got a great feel, and there's some great drum feels as well. Very dynamic, and the snare sound is great. Like the overall sound of the track. And you put it in concept of when it was recorded, 1973. John, is that correct?
Yep.
1973.
Yeah.
So
it was recorded between in a few sessions, basically June through to September. But like they'd be working for a week and a bit, and a week off, and like that. So there's probably about 4 different chunks of work on that. And this was actually one of the last songs recorded for the album. So
I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say it was recorded live or very close to.
I believe this one. What was happening with this one was, as I said before, they did it live, and then they'd kept the basic tracks, and they went back in and put the guitars and then the keys and vocals over the top.
Well, I mean,
interesting.
Sorry, Simon. Go. Yeah.
I was going to say interesting. You talk about the drummer because, you know, after this, Vinny Mad Dog Lopez, the drummer, got fired basically because Bruce didn't think he was up to muster. Didn't think he kind of, you know, you're right. I mean, I think the drumming's really great on this, and you think, you know, clearly Bruce had a different vision of it when he got to Born to Run, and you know, because Vinny only plays on one track, but he doesn't play on Born to Run. It's if you're only going to play on one track, that's the one. But I think pretty sure.
Vinny didn't play on Born to Run.
Who played on Born to Run?
That was Ernest Carter. So Vinny was fired after this album, and they toured for a bit, and then Ernest Boom Carter.
Boom Carter, yeah.
He came in, and then after they recorded the Born to Run single, Ernest and Davey Sanchez had left to form another band, and that's when they got Max Weinberg on drums and Roy Bitton on the piano to replace them. And then the rest of Born to Run was recorded with that lineup. But no, Vinny was on the first 2 albums, and I was looking for the right time to interject there, saying like that obviously Vinny's style is a lot more akin to Keith Moon, where he's not sort of like a straight rhythm player. He's very fill based and as a very busy sound, and when it was good, and apparently at some times he wasn't as reliable with the timekeeping.
Yeah, sadly, he had to go.
I'm glad you guys cleared that up for me. But regardless of the fact, I think he's drumming great on this track, and I think it was very exciting and very refreshing to listen to. And I had to give it a 10 out of 10 because it made me sort of sit up and get right into it. So 10 out of 10, never skip for me, guys. John.
Fair enough. Brings us to the second track, titled 4th of July, Asbury Park, and in brackets, the name Sandy. And Sandy is a character in the song that obviously Bruce's vocal character is singing about. And I think this is the track where it really brings in the imagery of the album and kind of permeates across the rest of the album as well. So it's the song that has the most references to the Asbury Park boardwalk, which was obviously a touristy part of the town there on the beach, and I suppose every place has got something similar where that's where the nightlife is and the hangout is, and definitely when I listen to this song, it just straight away takes me to sort of my mind of places I've been like that, where it's been Ferris wheels and beaches and ice cream cones and just again going back to that summer hanging out type of vibe. Really, I can think back to the days when I was a young lad with a fresh driving license, and me and mates would be all out and about, and out for a cruise, and and seeing who we could run into out in the street. But definitely this song is obviously a romantic based sort of storyline. He refers to this waitress that he was seeing who'd lost her desire for him, and I think again, going on the thing of seeing an overarching development from album to album, all the romantic relationships that are touched upon throughout this album, throughout all of these songs, they're all very tenuous. There's nothing like the fully committed, long-term family connection of a relationship that you see in his later work. And definitely in this one, it's as going back to what Simon said at the start, mentioning the lyrics, how he says, this boardwalk life is through and you ought to quit this scene too. It's definitely one of the most visually evocative songs on the record, and that's really saying something amongst these songs. Pretty much half of the tracks here are very, very cinematic in their lyrical depiction and the way they're written. And yeah, this one has always been a favourite of mine. I was lucky enough to hear it live at least once, but maybe twice. But definitely remember being in a big outdoor concert right on Sunset, where Bruce was saying, "Oh, we're just coming out of summertime. This is the perfect time for this song," and it really was. So I've always loved this song. It has brought back memories of things that I've done, and also memories of things obviously that I haven't done. But I it speaks to the universality of all of our experiences, where years and countries apart, we all kind of end up doing the same thing. I'll never would give this song anything less than a 10. I've always loved it, and yeah, I guess everybody's had a Sandy in their life, no matter what her name was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I like that.
It's an interesting choice. It's the second track on the album, isn't it? More of a ballad with a kind of the main instrument is the accordion all the way through. It's not many tracks you can say that about, is it? The main instrument is an accordion, but it has a kind of wistful, kind of slightly melancholy feel to it for me. And I think Johnny picked it out, that thing where he's leaving, isn't he? He's saying this boardwalk life is, it's finished for me. I've, I'm moving on to something else. So I don't know, New York or whatever, but he's moving out into the world from this, this small place where I've grown up on the seaside. I live near a seaside town called Weston-super-Mare, which has that kind of faded, grandeur about it as well. So I kind of recognise it in where I live, or close to where I live. I think it also, there's a kind of, you can see the development of his songwriting, of the lyrics and things, things like the fireworks are hailing over Little Eden tonight, forcing a light into all those stony faces left stranded on the 4th of July. Oh, that's just, that's great writing in anybody's books, and kind of, I get a thrill at that line, because I think it's, there's a lot in that, there's a lot beautifully thought out, and, and it has a rhythm and a cadence to it. I think it's lovely. But I too have seen him play this live. From an 81, and it's been, it's been one of those songs that he goes back to live, from time to time still. With his current band, I think still plays it. It's I think it's, for me, again, I'll mention the bass work, which I think is really great as well. It really brings the song alive and keeps it going. And there's even a recorder near the end. Bruce Springsteen on recorder. Back to school days, kids. Get your recorders out. which is lovely too. And that use, and there's even quite a lot as well, of the kind of low saxophone, almost like you going along with the bass. You know, the bass is almost kind of mixed in together, which is interesting. Lovely song. I've loved it ever since I heard it. Still love it. Still gives me a thrill. That's 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. For me, lovely second track.
Awesome.
Andrew.
Thank you, Simon. You did, John. Sorry. Yeah, nothing less than a 10. Sorry, mate. I was in La La Land. We got
Who's winning,
Dead.
mate?
Yeah,
We
who's
got
winning?
Dead. It's over. We got Dead Fish Cheese Spread back in the chat. Good to see you. Second week in a row. Thank you for jumping on board with us. Brad, this is what I like about this show. You know, I don't know anything about these albums, and it's fascinating to listen to other people's opinions about songs and albums, and I get exactly what John is talking about. I get it. I thoroughly understand the points of reference that you're talking about, John, which is, yeah, it's mind-blowing. I love it. I'm glad that they didn't do the Sandy version from Greece, actually, you know.
Oh, tell me more, mate.
Yeah. Tell me more. Did she put up a fight? You got it, bro. Okay, stink jokes. Brad, I love the acoustic feel. The acoustic vibe on this is pretty good. You know. And again, I'm attuned to hearing that from Bruce. You know, it's definitely something, you know, that's not jarring or new to me. But I have to tell you guys, and thank you, you know, again, I get the references and his storytelling and his lyrics are fantastic, and it's incredible. And the Rock Professors just elaborated, and John have elaborated with you some thoughts and opinions on what the song is, you know, about escaping, getting out, you know, which is always a good thing, because sometimes that takes a lot of, most of the time that takes a lot of courage to do that. So I think that's what Bruce is all about too. But Brad, you know, I don't think the vocals on this track, you know, it's I know that, like a lot of great singers and bands, you can have different approaches to the way that you sing a song, and you can hear that with all the singers that you love. And I get what Bruce is trying to do on this, Simon. He's trying to sing up close to the mic. He's trying to, you know, pull your ear in, isn't he? That's the impression I get. But, you know, it's not the best vocal performance. The music's cool. I dig it. But I've given this 7 out of 10, Brad. And but it's never a skip, bro.
Well, the beauty and the curse of going last. The beauty of it is to hear everyone else's opinion. The curse is, yeah, your opinion doesn't count no more by the time you get to the fourth person. But,
no. Because sometimes you might have to balance it. You know, you're either going to jump on this side or jump on that side. You know, so it's important.
No. Look, 4th of July.
We've got to stop calling it an opinion and start calling it an experience, because you listen to music and you experience it, and everyone's going to have their own individual connection with it or not. And really, it's not an opinion, because it is what you got out of it. So, mate, say what you got to say, and I never let anyone apologize for what they think of anything, because music's got to be something that touches you.
Well, that being said, John, I think you're 100% correct there, mate, my friend. Look, for me, I thought it was a strange choice to put this song second. That was just me. I thought after a track like the opening track, this is a strange choice to go second. However, once you're connected to this record, like you two, Simon and John, you guys are a bit more connected to this record, it might make sense to you now. You know what I mean? But from my point of view, listening to it, I was like, this is more like a third or fourth, maybe fourth or fifth track, like to end a side, or that's what I thought.
Good point.
But I have to say, it does evoke, emotion. This song, the boardwalks, fireworks, lost innocence. This it's a really cool sort of atmospheric accordion part or keyboard part. Is it accordion or something?
Accordion, it's accordion. Danny
Yeah,
Frederick.
sounds like accordion. And Springsteen's vocals. Andrew was saying it wasn't. I just think he was being more like a storytelling, a little bit more than trying to be a singer in this song in particular, which I've noticed he does a bit on this record. I think maybe the Dylan influence there seeps through a little bit. You can't help it. Dylan was a storyteller more than a singer. That's how I see it with Dylan. And I think Springsteen was maybe leaning towards that stylings on this song because of the sentiment of the song. I put great acoustic guitar. It's obviously prominent. Some really nice strumming on the acoustic guitar. And it's got a little bit of that subtle, I can hear a little bit of subtle electric guitar in there, sort of atmospheric sort of sound.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. The bass soft. The bass is very melodic. There's a melodic thing going on, but doesn't stand out too much. And the drums, obviously, the same thing, very laid back. I'm guessing it's brushes. I'm feeling it's brushes on the. I'm not as familiar with the songs you guys are, but I gave it a 8 out of 10. I think it's a great song. If I was to reorder this album, I wouldn't have put it second. That's just me. My experience, as John would say, my opinion and my experience of this record.
We don't give a fuck about your opinion anymore, bro.
No.
Hey, you know what? I don't either, mate.
Taking him an hour to swear.
Yeah.
The thing we can say too is that, like, I'm kind of looking at the track listing in front of me, and 7 songs. There's only really one rocker on it. The first track that we've already talked about is sort of pretty upbeat, but it's a funky soul type sort of thing. The next track's upbeat, but it's jazzy, and really the rest of them are all pretty laid back. So you don't really have a big sort of like if you put all your rockers up the front, there's really going to be the rest of the album is going to be all one sort of like sort of cool and breezy passage to the end. So
so something of a dichotomy, isn't it? Where to put it? It's a great song. Where do you put it?
You could possibly. The only thing that I could really think to myself, really, if I was going to shuffle things around, is switch 2 and 3, and I think that'd be the only way you'd be able to get away with it, because side 2 really just flows, and tracks 1 and 4 really are in the spot they need to be.
Yeah, I think what I'm getting at is, and I agree, 2 and 3 could have flipped around maybe, or 2 and 4.
Yeah.
I can't remember now what I thought, but I think people don't pay enough emphasis on how important a track order is on an album. I mean, this day and age, it's not as important because people just listen to on Spotify their favorite song. But back in the day when you put on an album, it's very important. The flow of a record is like going to see a gig. You've got to have a good flow of songs and not lose people by, it's just got to have a good flow. It's got to be like a journey is the best way to.
Maybe it's just one of those compromises you have to make to get a song on.
Well,
good point,
hey,
Brad. I agree.
Exactly what Andrew said. Who gives a about me? So on that note, I should do this.
Oh, potty mouth Bolton.
No, it's I was just reiterating the point that John made so eloquently. It's not about opinions, mate. It's about your experience. So I was backing him up there, bro. I was backing him up, man. Come on.
Definitely, mate. Sort of like without someone to listening to music, it's just another silent tree falling in an empty forest. So you need to put your nothing happens until there's a reaction, I guess.
Yeah. So we're up to Kitty's Back, guys. John,
yeah,
you're
so Kitty's Back. This is as I just said, this is a jazzy little number. When I say little, I don't mean short.
Jazzy little number.
Yeah, I was looking and I got distracted and I was looking at my other computer that's got my old iTunes set up on it. I've got sort of like a stupid amount of live recordings and bootlegs and saved as MP3s on my Mac there, and I found 35 versions of Kitty's Back. The studio version was the shortest version at 7 and something minutes. Take it that I was just looking at what the actual track of the length of the MP3 was. So I don't know how much intro talk on some of them might be, or a bit of an outro until the next song starts or whatever. But then they all started creeping up from like 10 minutes all the way up to 19. I was looking on another website that you can go on and you can sign up, log in, and create a profile, and then pick all the concerts you've been to, and it will give you exactly what songs you've seen, when it was the first time you heard this one, and like that. One of the things that tracked was saying that the longest version of Kitty's Back was 17 minutes. So, and where I'm getting to with all this, definitely this song's got like a nice chunk of a jam in the middle of it, where everybody lets loose, and the band is really in lockstep. They're really again, it was the basics were recorded live, and the other stuff's overdubs on top. But as I said, I got 35 freaking live versions of this that I've heard at least once, and definitely it is always a tour de force, where the band really gets to stretch out. And again, you see the different versions of it with the different players over the years. This is a song that sort of like dates back to sort of early '73, and then was this was one of the first songs started in the sessions, but pretty much was sort of worked on all the way through the time that they were working on the album. Davey was mainly the piano player, and Danny Federici mainly the organ player on this. But the big eruption type run on the organ that you find in the middle of this song was actually done by David Sanchez. And this is the type of track where everybody lets loose. And as I said, technically speaking, really not a rocker, but it's got some power behind it, and it's definitely moves along. So rocks without rocking, if that kind of makes sense. I'm sure all you use it.
Yep.
But definitely, interesting story in the lyrics about a guy who obviously he's the lady he has an interest in has gone away with someone else, but she's come back in town. And according to an onstage intro back in the early days, Bruce said that this song was inspired by a flashing neon sign outside of a strip club saying that Kitty's back. So take that information and do with it what you will. But no, definitely this one's a real, I'll hit you with some good old Aussie sayings. This one's a real rip snorter, a real ball terror, and it is a party from go to woe. And I'll give this one a 9. I had my times back in the day where this didn't really hit me much, and I might think of sort of like going straight to side 2, but no, I've definitely over the years really appreciated what goes on in this song more and more. Lyrically, it's a blast, but musically, it's just out of sight. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's kind of. I was thinking, listening to this album, kind of like trying to figure out things that I can't think of anything that's really like this as a song, the the instrumentation is used in a pretty unique way. I think I'm fairly well versed in what was going on in the early 70s, and this is kind of out there in terms of that introducing quite a lot of jazz influence into it. But as you say, John, keeping it at that rollicking tempo kind of thing. It's got some cool backing vocals as well, which is quite unusual for Springsteen. Doesn't do a lot of backing vocal stuff, and not not on the records much. It's pretty much him doing it. You've got, as you say, that kind of, you feel like it's quite jammed out, this track, and they've done it live. And from what you just said, clearly that's the case where it has a basic structure and they jam a whole bit. And David Sanchez is a great keyboard player for doing that kind of jazzy jam thing. It's again, it has that kind of underlying story thing about Kitty being back, yes, from wherever she's been to, marrying some dude somewhere, and then returning and things. And the kind of you feel the kind of dynamics of the tempo, the drop down bits, when they do the ooh, and the here she comes bits and things, where there's always whispered vocal.
Yeah, the here she comes bits like they're winding a spring, and it's not sliding down, like it's down, but you know that it's just about to burst,
break out again. And then that whispered vocals and here she comes and things, and you've got some call and response stuff in the back and vocals and things, which again is quite unusual for Springsteen. But I think that it's something of itself, and they're not really any other kind of influences or any other songs that I can think of that really sound like this. It's pretty unique sound, and it took it somewhere. And I gave it a 9 out of 10 and never a skip. It's great. It has a great vibe to it, a great feel. Andrew.
Thanks, Simon, and thank you, John, again for your outstanding reflections and experiences on these tracks. Kitty's Back, great song. I felt really, really familiar, Brad, when I heard this track. The first time you're listening. Obviously, being a rocker, you're going to pick up on it. Love the guitar tone, great guitar tone. Had no idea that Bruce was playing the guitar. John cleared that up earlier by saying, that Bruce played soul guitar on there, so that's pretty cool. I wasn't sure, you see, and I wasn't going to go and do any research because I wanted to find out through John or Simon whether or not that was going to be the case. So thank you, John, for bearing that point out. And sometimes I think a little bit later on, for newer Springsteen fans, we probably forget that he can actually play the instrument, other than strumming it. Which seems to be, the main thing I think that people might pick up on. So I was blown away. So thanks, John, again for clearing that up. The playing exceptional and the tone. So again, that goes hand in hand with whoever was the producer, because the guitar was still a pretty important instrument back 72, 73. Love the bass. The Rock Professor has mentioned the bass a few times, and the bass gets better and better, John, doesn't it, on this album? It's just to a point where it's just all over some other songs, but really love it, dig it, and it's a thing, again, I'm sorry to repeat it, guys, but you don't pick the bass up on a lot of other albums of Bruce's that I've heard, with the Wall of Sound thing that he seems to sort of go with over, recently on his last 20 albums or whatever. His last, because how many albums? 50 albums, something like that. So again, I'm. It's refreshing to hear these instruments, and they're in your ear, Brad. You mentioned before that you're at the gym. You've got your earbuds on. You can hear every instrument. And I like that. I dig that very much, John. As you said, a product of the time. In the 70s, where you said this is not a rock album. But it isn't a rock album, but it is, because it's putting itself into that stream anyway. So So, you got to be able to hear those instruments in the early 70s. I've given this 9.5 out of 10, Brad. But actually, I've talked myself into giving it, I'm going to give it 9.5 out of 10. I've talked myself into it because the guitaring is so great. Brad's never skipped. Please share your experience with the song, brother.
First thing I noticed, it's a nearly an 8-minute track. It's
a lot of long tracks on here. Yeah.
Long track. Third song in, long track. I think for me, I mean, I'm a real, rocker from that era. I love all the rock bands in that period of time. And it does have a bit of that psychedelic rock thing going on that I picked up from the late 60s, early 70s. It's definitely in this track. It's full of energy. There's a lot of improvising, obviously. And it does obviously highlight the band, the E Street Band, what they're capable of doing in this. I'll put here, Springsteen delivers a powerful vocal performance. There's a lot of rock in his voice there, but a lot of soul as well. The electric guitar, the extended solos. I'm going to say they're bluesy inspired licks that he's giving. The song has got a very jam-like feel, and the guitar is very jam-like. Great playing. I think Bruce Springsteen might be underrated as a guitar player, really, when I think about it. And bass, the bass is doing its job. It's moving. It's got a jazzy feel at times. There's a lot of extended moving bass lines. The drumming, very dynamic. There's some jazzy drum fills going on. I think he's a pretty good drummer. Myself, I don't think that there's, a reason for Bruce Springsteen not to like him at this point. Cool keyboards and the brass section. I gave it a 10 out of 10, guys. I was very, very surprised with this track. 10 out of 10.
Wow.
John.
Cool.
Right. So the next song is definitely probably the most different sounding one on the album. It's titled Wild Billy's Circus Story. This one actually was originally an older song. It was pretty much the same song under a different title, just called Circus Song, and it was recorded for his first album but never used. Apparently they know that it was recorded, but the recording of that performance has never really seen the light of day. But this one is definitely the least rock and roll song of the album. Definitely the instrumentation is perfect for the subject matter because it sounds like a circus. You've got Danny with his accordion again that he used so masterfully a couple of songs ago. And you've got everybody's favourite bass player by the sound of it, Gary Talent playing the tuba. And this one really is just a brilliant cinematic reading of basically Bruce has picked you up and plopped you right in the middle of a circus and is describing all the characters and the goings on. And this was for a while, because it wasn't a rock and roll song, I would often skip this song, but I never would think of doing that now, especially this week that I've been listening to a lot. And I've got about an hour's drive to work 3 days a week, and I was making sure that I put this album on as I left home every morning and as I left work every afternoon. So definitely when you're doing your study for a show, you're not going to skip anything anyway, and you're going to try and go through the whole album. But I can't remember the last time that I haven't sort of like just been captivated by this tune, because it is just so evocative. The characters, again, not a lot of description besides their names and who they are, and it just there's not one line that you don't understand exactly what he's talking about, which is fantastic. I know when I'm trying to say something, much like now, you feel like you've got to say 3 paragraphs just to give the background to what you want to say, so that people don't say, "What the hell are you talking about?" But yeah, just each line is not, each word is not wasted in this song at all, and it just gives a beautiful picture. Again, going back to that old Super 8, home movie visual. Again, it's the job of the music and these songs on this album are just to take you to another place, and by God, this song does it masterfully. So again, as much as I from what I said there, I look at that, I've given it an 8, and I'm wondering why I shouldn't have scored it higher. But yeah, definitely I've got other songs in it that I just love so much on this album that I'm trying to put this one in its context. But this is probably a gem that a lot of people on the first few listens might go, yeah, it's a bit odd. This is sort of like the not really what I'm coming to Bruce Springsteen for. But then when you really give it a shot, and you just let it come into your ears and let it come into your mind and your soul, realize that this is exactly what you come to Bruce Springsteen for. And yeah, I think it's brilliant. Simon.
Yeah. I think that that it's kind of the end of side 1, so it's kind of has that kind of acoustic thing. He said I think it was a misstep to open the song with a tuba, sort of to scare off people at the beginning of the song, which is a shame. It's quite amusing, but I mean, for me, this is very Dylan-esque as well. There's a very kind of Dylan-esque quality to this, to the lyrics and things. I'd also say that clearly that thing about a circus, being a transitory thing, it's leaving town, it's and at the end the ringmaster says to the boy, are you going to come? Are you coming? And you've got that kind of thing. Hey son, you want to try the big top? All aboard, Nebraska's our next stop. Interesting. Nebraska's the next stop, but I think, as you say, fantastic imagery in it, and and lyrics about what's going on. Moving fast through the tent, Mars bent, he's going to miss his fall. Oh God, save the human cannonball. It's lovely. It's and as I say, quite Dylan-esque as well as a thing. But it has that kind of slightly wistful quality of that he's into right at this point. Also, it's got mandolin on it. He plays mandolin on it as well. It's unusual. He's not really played mandolin on many other things other than that. But
I think once Steve joined the band, he'd be the guy that would normally be
the mando player. That's true. Yeah, I think it. As I say, it's that kind of, the circus is a kind of analogy as a crossroads of of innocence, adulthood. In leaving town, going somewhere else to joining something else, and doing something else. So I think is opposite to where Springsteen was at that particular time in some ways.
There's definitely an underlying transience under all 7 songs.
Yeah, definitely. There is, isn't there, that kind of thing as a kind of a leaving thing, one of the themes. But I like you, John. I think it's a fantastic song. Great performances, and I give it a 9 out of 10. Never a skip. It's a really good, fantastic closure to side 1. Andrew.
Cheers, mate. Hey, Jimmy Ray. Good to see you. He's just made a comment about people needing to check out the Broadway gig to get another appreciation of how fantastic Bruce is. So I've just said to him that I've just watched, as I mentioned to you guys a couple of days ago, and just finished it last night, Letter to You. So, I'll definitely check it out. And we've got Tony Bowen all the way from Greece, who's, if you guys have been following him on social media, he's been posting a lot of pics, been having a lot of fun in Greece, Brad, a place that you spent a few days in not long ago.
Greece is a beautiful place. I'm very envious, but I'm very happy for you, Tony. It's a great place.
Yes, to Tony.
I'll go back tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Wild Billy. Look, you know, again, the acoustic guitar work on this track, Brad, is fantastic, isn't it? It's just incredible. And it's definitive. You can hear it. You know, I again surprised John about how clear the instruments are on this. It's just a fantastic
it's a
track.
different album in headphones than on speakers, definitely.
Oh,
really
yeah. And to be fair, I've only been listening to it on headphones and earbuds. So
but there's definitely a lot of stuff going on around.
Yeah.
You
If
you don't have it in your ears, so that's great.
Yeah, and I dig that. Brad, you know, surprised in the clarity and the production of this track. You know, we'd like to talk about that, especially as we've done this before, Simon. Setting up a studio for acoustic instruments is a little bit has a technical side that's a little bit more finer in what you need to do for an engineer, as opposed to full on electrical, you know, electric instruments. So you know, again, a great production on this album. Brad, I've given this 8 out of 10, and never a skip, bro.
Wow, you caught me with a mouthful of food.
Sorry, bro.
Oh no!
I was just just having a little snack. No,
Yeah.
well, if other channels can do it, Andrew, why not? You know what I mean?
Oh.
Next song, Wild Billies. I'm changing.
No, you need to do so. No, you need to film. You need to film from location.
Oh well, I've done it all wrong. Anyway, back to the task at hand, gentlemen. We've got to stay on track. Wild Billy's Circus Story. This track was surprising for me. It's got the sound of it to me is very folky. It's got an American sort of folk sort of infusion there going on. You know, it puts you right in the middle of a circus. John, I'll back you up there. That's what I've got here. Vivid lyrics, I'll put that. And a very interesting arrangement. I'd say his vocals are soft, but fitting for that sort of storytelling sort of, again, more storytelling sort of vocal approach. Acoustic guitar. I love, you know, we all love a beautiful acoustic sound, and you wrapped it up, Andrew, with the recording of that. So I'm not going to dive into that. And, you know, there's a little bit of minimal amount of electric guitar there, which is cool. You know, the replacement of the bass with the tuba, I think you said, John or Simon, was it? Yep. So I thought that was an interesting way to go, but it works. You know what I mean? It's different. And the drumming is pretty tight. Obviously, the whole song is focused around the theme of the song, and the musicians are delivering that way, which is my opinion of the mark of an amazing musician to play for the song. I gave it a 7 out of 10, gentlemen, and never a skip. I believe we've got some photos to show, Andrew. Is that correct?
Yeah. So give me
it's funny how you guys also commented about really liking the recordings, because this album was recorded at 914 Studios. And then on the next album, they started at 914 and then moved to Record Plant. And the idea was that they moved because they weren't happy with the studio. But definitely they, you know, come up good with it, with this album at that place. So
I think it sounds great. I mean, if it's the first time, you put it in perspective, 1973.
Yeah.
How records were recorded in 73, it sounds great.
Yeah, so there they are down on the boardwalk.
Yeah, these photos, obviously, you can tell by the clothes that they're wearing is the same stuff they're wearing as in the picture on the back of the album cover. And so there was obviously they'd moved around a few places and taken some shots together there.
Just it's amazing. I tell you, one thing that I think it's not overlooked, but it's an interesting point, is that in 1973, this is a multicultural band. It is a multicultural band, and I think that's was a lot rarer in 1973 than it is now. And it is a point that it is a multicultural band. Hanging out on the back porch now at Asbury Park.
Yeah, so I went through these photos. So that's obviously the big sort of place there. You can see all the people walking. That's the boardwalk. It's sort of hard to tell in this photo, but yeah, it's a big wooden pier-like structure on the beach there, and that's the I think it's the convention hall there in the background. But definitely, I'll say something, Brad, that our two mates won't understand, but very much Rosebud Dramana. In sort of like what it's like and the feel of this album, sort of down at our eastern peninsula around the bay that Melbourne sits on. There is where all the beaches are, and definitely where all me and my ethnic friends used to go in the summertime to my mate Dave's parents' holiday house and get up to all sorts of mischief down there.
Is this where the Sopranos filmed a lot of their scenes?
Yeah, you would have seen the time when Tony Soprano's talking to the fish that looks like a pussy bompensiero there on the boardwalk. But definitely that's sort of like the same shot then coming back from the first one, just a bit further back. But obviously had its heyday in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and then by that stage it sort of like was dying out a bit. Did go through a resurgence later on. Madame Marie, she was a character there mentioned in the Sandy song. She'd been there from 1930 something or other, and basically was there telling fortunes in that little concrete shack up until her death in 2008.
Wow!
And I believe the family is still there and doing that. There's our boy himself there in front of him. You can see there the wooden flooring there on the boardwalk.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, it's
and
real.
That's Marie there.
Wow.
Yeah. The police arrested Madame Marie for telling fortunes better than they can. Tremendous.
This is a shot taken at Joe's place, and we can see there the band as it was. Obviously, we can't see Vinny in this shot, but it was only a six-piece back then with again Bruce being the only guitarist. You can see a very long-haired and bearded Gary on the bass there in the back.
Wow.
Davey just to his left there, and on the other side on the organ you've got Danny there. But
mysterious Dan Frederici.
Yep, Phantom Dan. It's actually funny. I was talking about how we saw Bruce playing Sandy back in 2014. It was at the Hope Estate in Newcastle, sort of a couple of hours out of Sydney, and obviously Danny had passed away by that point, and Bruce sort of name checked him at the start, and we had a thing going in one of the our online forums where we would say Danny's the man. So he mentioned Danny's name, and there was a big shout from the crowd where someone yelled out, "Danny's the man!" And watching it on watching it on YouTube. Someone had done an audience recording on it on YouTube, and one of the guys on the on the forum said, "John, was that you yelling 'Danny's the man'?" I said, "Yeah, it was. It got caught on some guy's bloody video."
Fantastic.
One thing I noticed, a current theme in all those photos, it looked like Bruce Springsteen needed to eat a good steak or two.
Yeah, he's a skinny bloke
Skinny
back
boy.
in the day, and he probably was right up until you see photos of him from around 78, the Darkness and 80 River times, and even up to when he recorded Nebraska, the shots of him in Nebraska from 1982, he was looking kind of the same. And then somewhere between Nebraska and Born in the USA, he went to the gym and he bulked up and sort of got all Brad-like.
No, not like me. I thought he's definitely looking a bit skinny there, but yeah, I always think that's the young thing too, isn't it? When you're young, you're young and skinny, you're still filling out a little bit. So
probably not eating too much, busy doing other things and burning calories one way or another.
Well, your metabolism runs different when you're that age, doesn't it? So
freaking tell me about it.
It drops.
Yeah, it drops.
Yeah,
great photos, guys. Great photos. What are we up to?
Flavour of it, doesn't it? Side two, incident on 57th Street.
Yeah.
All right,
and
John,
we talk about the difference between the old days of listening to stuff on vinyl and cassette and having to flip it over or eject and rewind your tape up to listen to side two. And one of the things I found so jarring listening to this album on Spotify this week is House Tune Incident on 57th Street. The first piano note comes in at the end of straight after Wild Billy's Circus Story. Definitely, this is an album of two sides, and I need a couple of seconds break between the two of them for it to not sort of hit me like, what's he doing here all of a sudden. But as I mentioned before, side two's only 3 songs, 3 long songs, and it's just about as good as a side of an album as I could probably pick out of anything. There's a million great songs and great albums out there, and of course, there's you comparing to apples to oranges, no matter which ones you talk about. But definitely, I don't know how many others I'd find that I can sort of like say have I love as much as these 3 songs, without trying to give too much away. But Incident on 57th Street has been my white whale. I knew that I stuffed up in 2014. Bruce had come back to Australia only 11 months after already having toured here. And though he did a bit of a slightly longer tour, and he actually went to Perth and Adelaide that he'd missed out the previous year. He when he got to Melbourne, he said, seeing as we were here not long ago, we thought we'd do something different, and he decided to play the entire Born in the USA album on the Saturday night. And then on the Sunday night in Melbourne, he played the whole Born to Run album smack bang in the middle of the show. And I thought, geez, this is a bit good. Then Wednesday night when I was in Sydney, we got Darkness on the Edge of Town. And all of a sudden I realised, well, he didn't do this in the other cities, but he's doing it in all the ones that he went before. And have I really stuffed up by not taking a couple of extra days off and catching the Brisbane show? And sure enough, the album that we're doing tonight, he played in full right in the middle of the Brisbane show.
Did he? Oh, wow.
I was sitting at home that night, very annoyed with myself. Wow. And this song is one song that actually I should have sent you the photo. One of the days that I was up right on the rail, right up the front. All of us used to be holding up signs sometimes. I didn't have a sign that time, but I managed to write Incident on 57th Street across my arm, and I had that as my sign leaning on thing. But he didn't play it, the bugger. But definitely,
You
this
didn't
is
take
one
your
of
arm
my-
away then.
Sorry.
You didn't take your arm away and take it
No,
up to the
no, but
band.
like, it's funny. At one of the earlier tours, we did a whole bunch of signs, and he didn't take one of my song signs, but he was touring with Tom Morello, and so I decided
Yeah.
to shitstorm Tom. Tom would have his Arm the Homeless guitar with a double locking system on it, and he had the ball ends. He had the strings on backwards, and the ball ends sort of like all hanging off. He didn't trim them off the headstock. So I held up a sign saying, "Hey Tom, I've bought the side cutters." And I forget who. Somebody grabbed Tom's attention and like that, and he's going, "No, I'm not doing that." But anyway, we'll talk about rambling and getting way off topic. We're here to talk about Incident on 57th Street, and again, one of those songs. This is like West Side Story in a song. It is a wonderful tale. Again, a romantic sort of like relationship that's mentioned in the lyrics, and the main characters being Spanish Johnny and Puerto Rican Jane, obviously living together in a what seems to be a New York style apartment. You can see that wrought iron fire escape in your mind's eye when the lyrics go past here, and definitely this is a song that has been one of my favorites throughout, to pick out of his whole catalogue of loved this song so much, and been lucky enough to hear some of the other songs live, but missed out on this one, unfortunately. But and speaking of live, these around the time that Bruce first became, sort of like a big thing in my life. We had to wait a while until anything was officially released live, until he released his live set in the a few years later, in around about I think it was 86, 87 it came out. But I will recommend, if anyone can find on Spotify, I'll flash up this next to the camera, see if it works without too much glare. This is what shows up on the Aussie Spotify here. Live. This is basically a collection of all the B-sides from the singles that were released on the live set. This was originally available on the 12-inch vinyl of the song War, and it is a fantastic version of this song. There is I know you guys are always picking the guitar parts out of the song, and at the start of this, when the drums kick in, there's a little guitar solo that happens there, and it's kind of halfway back in the mix. This live version's got it right up front and a couple of extra bars, and is one of my favorite renditions of this song. If I can be afforded the indulgence of going off album and finding another version of the song. But definitely you can tell by my incoherent faffing around that I don't know what to say about this song, just because I love it so much. It was always like like, again, at the time that I first heard this song, just getting to that sort of like time of your life where you're looking to go out in the world and meet that girl and get in those fights and do those things and see the world. And definitely I touched on this when we spoke on Born to Run about my visions of New York and what I'd seen of it in movies and TV shows and stuff like that. And it just seemed like such another world and just a fantasy land, really. And this song always just has had me enthralled, and I think it's a wonderful track. And just this, and then obviously we're going to talk about the last song, New York City Serenade, when we get to it. But these two songs really are the precursors of what became so brilliantly put together in Jungleland on the Born to Run album. And these songs are often referred to as epics, and sometimes people talk about epics as, they're just talking about a long song, but it's so much more than that. It's the musicality of it, the grandiose sort of cinematic quality that the lyrics give it, and it is also bolstered by the music. So fantastic song. This is my standout track of the album, my absolute favorite on the album. Definitely the highest 10s of 10s that I could give it, and I would never skip it. And I think for all the times that I've put this on by itself and decided to listen to it again, you could technically say I've skipped the other songs just to listen to this one so many times as well. But no, definitely a high point of this album for me. And yeah, the way that it sits with the other two songs on this side just is just masterful.
Awesome, John.
Cool. Well, there we are. We're all off home now.
Yeah. Not much for me to say now. Go, Simon.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Well, yes. I mean,
I was going to talk about my experience with it. So you've got plenty to say, guys.
Well, no, true. But you are right. You are right. That thing about it being a precursor to Jungle Land, surely, and that first line, Spanish Johnny drove in from the underworld last night. It's very much very similar to opening line to Jungle Land, isn't it? Which definitely. But and I think that it's interesting that on this side, this is about New York. So this is left the boardwalk. So this is about moving on to New York and a different kind of big city experience. It's it's, as you've said, John, it's a beautiful song. It's got fantastic lyrics and a fantastic radio. And just some points to bring out: the angelic backing vocals as well, which is completely un-Bruce-like and not done anywhere else, as far as I'm aware. It just that kind of very kind of angelic choir almost singing that. And that half-spoken singing, and then and the backing with the choir is just brilliant. Brilliant arranging of the thing. And I think that we should point out that David Sanchez's piano is fantastic. So it's slightly wonky at the beginning, isn't it? The piano in the studio is a bit, but you soon get subdued into the track, and it doesn't matter. It's quite amusing. But again, I think the melodic bass playing as well, great. I think that melodic bass playing that Gary Talent does is sort of really makes these tracks in many ways, and fantastic, and a guitar solo as well, kind of melodic, passionate guitar solo towards the end, which is really cool. Something you get too much with Mr. Springsteen. So, I too gave it a 10 out of 10, and never a skip. It's a fantastic, evocative, cinematic track. Definitely. Right. Andrew, sorry. Forgotten which way around we go. Andrew.
No problem. Hey, Drops, good to see you. And Helene saying that her phone is dropping out of charge, so we may miss her. If you don't come back, Helene, thank you for ranking the tracks with us, and the great comments. Always a pleasure and a delight to see you here with us live. Thank you. And also, I want to do a shout out to Mikey Bitsko. Forgive me if I pronounced your surname wrong, Mikey, but thanks for jumping on. And yeah, I agree with you. Modern music today is not the same. But we're not going there, Brad, are we? Because that's another 50-minute conversation. But we all get the point that you're making. 8 minutes long, bro, this song. It's just phenomenal. And the keyboards, the piano at the start, Simon, you said it's wonky, it's all over the place. It's like a trip, isn't it? It's again, unlike Brad, you said something a little bit before, on one of the tracks that there was a bit of a psychedelic thing going on. I'm not saying that this is a psychedelic track, but it's just, it's a little bit disjointed and a little bit unnerving, and then it comes back into playing chords and into harmony. And something, Simon, that you appreciate, that because you know what's going on. There's no tension there. And I love that. And again, that's done on purpose, isn't it, by Bruce Springsteen, this young, skinny guy. Fantastic. But these elements that I've just described don't just remain on this track. You know, it's part and parcel of this track is continued on the last track again. So these, you know, that thread, that tapestry that Springsteen does on a lot of his songs. You said before, John, that this is not a concept album like other albums that we've ranked, you know, and we kind of thought maybe there's a thematic theme going on with the other, and I'm not saying that this is, but there are on side 2, as you said, there are hints of, you know, of themes from this song that you're going to get on the next previous song, on the songs to follow. Gosh, forgive me. I will speak English soon. Great guitars, Brad. You know, we keep talking about this. We love the guitars, the keyboards, the keys, the piano. We love that. Always have, and it's really nice. I don't think we got a lot of it on the first track, did we? Nothing to the point that we're getting on this track. You know, as a standalone. I can't recall. And also this is the side where Bruce is singing fantastically, his vocals. This track and another track that we'll talk about, but this is just up until this point here. Now, John, this is the best vocals of Bruce on the album. I've given this 10 out of 10. Really surprised me, blew me away. Never a skip, Brad.
Yeah. Incident on 57th Street. I put here, I mean, it's a cinematic sort of ballad, isn't it? It's
you got it.
It's you know, I guess I can hear Dylan vibes on this track, 100%. There's a lot of Bob Dylan influence on this one. His vocals shift, you know, he's got more that storytelling sort of vibe to more impassioned, like, delivery of vocals, you know what I mean, to give it sort of those powerful moments, and that's what a singer's supposed to do, you know, really push the big parts of the songs, you know what I mean. Electric guitar on this track is obviously there's a lot of depth in what's going on there. It's not overpowering. The solo at the end is really, really lyrical, like what I said before. A guitar player that plays like they're singing a vocal part. That's basically what it is. The bass and drums are, you know, playing together, very sparse where it's needed to be, and they're not really overpowering by any means, but they're building the intensity of the track. So exactly what a bass player and a drummer is meant to do in a track like this. I mean, lyrically is the highlight for the song. It certainly sort of makes you think a little bit, you know. And for that reason, the more I listen to this, I originally gave it an 8 out of 10, this song, but I gave it a 10 out of 10 because, it grew on me a little bit more all week as I listened to it. So it's a great song, and I gave it 10 out of 10. John?
Wow.
Well, in the days when you listened to albums and they grew on you, and you got into them, and you didn't necessarily, you know, get into them straight off like that. It took a bit of time, yeah, because they've got depth and they've got the thing. So that's really cool to know. Right?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, John.
Yes. So this song sort of like goes to a big crescendo, and then there's just like a little piano figure that sort of like very similar to the ending of "You Shook Me All Night Long" by AC/DC. You think they still owe you a note before you should stop listening. But it then kicks off straight into the jangling opening riff of Rosalita. And now Rosalita was a song that probably you never mentioned it explicitly, Andrew, but I'm guessing this is the only song that you'd heard of this album before. And it was a well-known song because back in the days before We really got music videos out of Bruce. The one video that did make the circulation was a live version of Rosalita from 1978, recorded in Phoenix, Arizona. And so this was a kind of a for the people that didn't know every Bruce track, they kind of knew this one. And this is the rocker of the album, and very autobiographical song. And again with I mentioned Bruce's notebooks earlier before. This song, probably more than a lot of others, even though she was his inspiration for a few characters, was Bruce's girlfriend from 1971 to just about while he was working on Born to Run in 1975. Her name was Diane Lazito, and some of the stuff that it's actually mentioned lyrically in this song are things that actually happened with her. They were thinking of moving in together, and her mum wasn't too receptive to that idea, because her ex-husband was a muso, and she saw how sort of like how that worked out. So he wrote in his little notebook, I know your mama don't like me because I play in a rock and roll band. And so there was a lot of that came into that song. But basically, Diane is the girl that he kisses at Greasy Lake in Spirit of the Night. She's she's Terry in Backstreets, and even the song Bobby Jean from Born in USA was written about her. But Rosalita itself, a big rockin' tune. It was a big showstopper right at the end of the main set, usually for most of the shows going all the way up to 1988. And then it sort of like got put away for a while. And I got to hear it in 2003 after it had only been played for a few times throughout, once in 1992, and then sort of only 13 times between sort of being a regular at 1998 up until 2003. We're at the Sydney concert at the Sydney Cricket Ground, and 4 times during the night the power went off, and it looked like the everything just died in the arse. The sound would go down. All you could really hear was the drums. The lights were all off. And the crowd would just keep singing whatever song he was in the middle of it, and until the power came back on, and we kept the band going. And then finally at the end of the night, he pulled Rosalita out, which was like an absolute rarity at the time. And my God, didn't everybody goes, "Get ready to bleep me, Andrew." Fucking mental. And it was great, So I at some stages in my life I've been sick of Rosalita, because it's one of those songs that it's it's a good song and it's a great song, but you tend to hear it so much, and you don't really want to hear it anymore. But again, this is another one that sort of has crawled its way back into my heart, and is just an absolute Bruce classic, even for the casual fans. But it's just a damn good song, and for any of us that have dabbled in the musical life, definitely something that we can relate to. And of course, anyone who's anyone who's ever talked to a girl before, we can all relate to as well. So I'm throwing a 9 on this one, and never a skip, of course, anymore. And just a brilliant little tune in the middle of this trio on side 2.
Was
definitely
Simon.
Yeah, I mean, clearly written as a closer, and I think that's that's pretty. He said that he wrote it really specifically as a concert closer, and that's and that's clearly what it does. It's a great sort of 3-chord rock and roll workout, isn't it? It's got that kind of ADAE kind of structure. cast of characters, and it's got everything that you're going to need. It's 7 minutes long, and I can remember watching the old Grover test and seeing that clip, that of him playing it live in Arizona, and then doing an interview with David Hepworth afterwards, lying there kind of dripping with sweat, having played 4 hours kind of thing, or 3 hours, just tremendous, and being just amazed by this, as it's round about the Darkness on the Edge of Town time. But and it's it does, as you say, John, it's that story about getting a deal, leaving again, that kind of leaving thing, isn't it? I'm off to make my fortune as a rock and roller kind of thing, which I think is fantastic, and that kind of typical parental disapproval. And that, especially that kind of bit where they all sing "Your Papa says that I don't have any money" kind of thing. Just the voices chanting its way through. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a fantastic closer to the concerts and things. I saw him do it on the River Tour in '81. Definitely doing it then. It's 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Fantastic rock and roll track. Andrew.
Mikey, one of the admins has timed you out. We appreciate the comments, but we can't deviate from the agenda that we've set, mate. We've got an album to talk about, and it's not necessarily about our stories. People would rather listen to our thoughts and opinions about listening to albums. Mikey, that's what our show's about. So, as John said, there's plenty of other shows where you can go and watch and talk about things that you might want to hear. Yeah. But yeah, please don't take it personally. But we're not going to deviate, mate, from what we want to do. So, thanks for joining us anyway. Who's leaving?
Oh, Ellen is.
Go. Okay, Alan. Thank you. Thanks for joining us, Alan. Have a great week. Yeah, as ever.
Okay.
And thank you, Dead Fish, because he's subscribed to the channel and he's hit the notification button, so he should get a notification about the album that we're going to rank. But we normally have a consult, Dead Fish, about the album, and I normally put a show card up the next day. So if you come back, and that'll give you preparation for during the week. But we probably, if I give you a heads up, we might pick a Led Zeppelin album, because we did a Led Zeppelin show a couple of weeks ago. So we'll talk about that. So you've hit the nail on the head, John. Rosalita was the first, I think it was the first video I saw Bruce Springsteen to on television before 1984. And it was from the 1975 Hammersmith Odeon gig on a music show here called Radio with Pictures. And Bruce Springsteen was definitely, for my mind, in my opinion back then, guys, Bruce Springsteen was sophisticated music. So I wasn't interested in it. But I do remember being captivated by his stage performance, because he had his hat on and he had his Telecaster and he was rocking, So there was definitely something cooking there, Brad. Other than that, I didn't lock on. There wasn't enough there. But they play that song a little bit on classic radio over the years too. You'd be probably happy to hear, John. That's one of the songs, it's a deep dive track that they play often. And I've come to appreciate that song as a good balance to Born in the USA, Brad, or Hey Little Girl, Is Your Daddy Home, which gets thrashed, but which is a great song.
No.
Don't get me wrong, but Rosalita, when is very good, eh? Powerful song, John. Powerful song, and this is when the sax comes in. This is when You know, again, it's that rock and roll edge that you didn't quite get on side one, John. You know, you're getting, you're sort of getting a bit of grit under your fingernails, and I like that. The bass and drums, of course, are a standout on this. And again, you know how I said the previous track was the best vocals up until the previous track. So on this track, I'm listening to this, Brad, in context of the whole album. I'm going, this is Bruce's best vocals up to this track. Never a skip. 10 out of 10, John. And an incredible track. Brad.
Yeah, I think this is the most well-known song on the album, isn't it? This would be the most.
I would say so. I'd say for the people that aren't sort of like Brewery's whole catalogue, this would be the one out of this album that would make the best of album, whatever. Yeah,
and obviously it's become a staple in his show for sure, 100%. So.
Like I said, it had that period where it sort of like slowed down, but then I think after that Sydney show, it sort of came back into rotation for that tour, and it's been semi-regular. I mean, he tends to move stuff around a bit, but definitely it's a often there at the end of the show.
Yeah. I mean, his vocal in this is full of passion. There's a lot of energy. It's a great vocal that is done here. Electric guitar, it drives the song. This one, especially during the instrumental sections. It's a long song. This one, isn't it? It's a long song. So
they're all pretty long in this side. Yeah. They're all around about the 7 8 mark.
And the bass and drums again. Fast pace, the instrumental breaks and all that, and the outro and stuff like that. Very cool. I gave it a 9 out of 10, gents, and never a skip. John.
Yeah, and that brings us to the last track. And this one's got some really interesting stuff on it too. So New York City Serenade. Very much in the vein of Incident, where it's a long track. It's definitely an epic track. Very much visually evocative again, and it opens up with somebody strumming the strings inside a grand piano. So, and all of the live versions that have been done since, Roy sort of plays these dissonant chords to approximate it, but definitely it's a very specific sound that you hear at the start of this tune, and then obviously a sort of like almost a classical top style opening from Davey Sanchez there. And then it sort of like comes into a sort of like a nice little strolling musicality of it, and then slowly you have the acoustic guitar come in, you have strings come in. Bruce, when he came out here at 2017, he actually played this song in about 4 or 5 shows, and he had a string quartet come on and play. And I was spooned because I wanted to record the very start of it at one of the shows I was at, and loved it so much I ended up keeping the video rolling for the whole thing. I uploaded it to YouTube, and out of all the millions of bloody Bruce Springsteen live videos, I get a copyright strike. I have to take it down.
So, he claimed his own song back. How outrageous!
Yeah. Yeah, so bloody Bruce, what can you do? But yeah, so it's again as a sweeping closer to the album, it's fantastic. It actually was born out of 2 separate songs. There was an old song from 1972 called Vibes Man, which basically, if you follow the lyrical part of it on the album, so the bit where he talks about Fish Lady and the bit where he talks about Vibes Man was on this piano song that he did as part of a demo for Columbia Records and Jim Krektos, who's one of the producers of his first two albums. And then there was a song called New York City Song, which the first part of this song was taken from. And you can hear those. You can look them up on YouTube and see the evolution of those two tunes and how they were put together to make this track. But I've always thought that this was just as equally sweeping and an epic, well deserved to stand next to Incident on 57th Street and Jungle Land. Again, just one of those tunes that takes you away to another place. And this one's like 5 seconds shy of 10 minutes, but it's got that sort of time travel quality that what Bohemian Rhapsody does, where it's a decently lengthy song, but all of a sudden you're at the end of it and you didn't really notice it all go by. You know, that definitely time flies when you're having a good time. Proven, I guess.
Yeah.
So again, this one here, anything less than a 10 would be unimaginable for me. And that's for me. I understand if it doesn't float someone else's boat, but I've always loved this song as well from the first time I heard it. And as many pictures in my mind this song puts in as any other song, I guess. I can't speak highly enough of it, and that's why for me the end of this this record and this side two, these three songs just really you get the saying of the whole is more than the sum of the parts. But the parts are so damn bloody good to begin with, but they just make something fantastic that I'm struggling to find the words to express properly. Side two of this album is just it's just a 25-minute bit of heaven for me.
Well done, John.
Definitely. I think that as you said, John, it's an amazing kind of that piano bit at the beginning that which contains so many different styles, isn't it? And there's a fitting kind of tribute to David Sanchez because he clearly left after this, so it's kind of the last track he played on, or the last track on the album that we hear. But I also think there's that really interesting about there are some strings on it, but there's also mellotron, and at one point there's strings and mellotron playing strings together to kind of fill it out, which is really cool. I think the arrangement is amazing. I think that that jazz influence thing and the way that the dynamics work, and with the acoustic, the strings, the congas, all those things, keeping it going, gives it that kind of midnight New York vibe that and also I think lyrically, the boy has moved to New York and it's it's a new life, isn't it? And on Broadway and with the new cast of characters and things. So I think that it, I can see why this is the last track on the album, because that's where they are. They've moved out of the boardwalk and moved to New York, and this is what it's about. It's it's a fitting ode to New York and the swan song with David Sanchez, as I say. And I give it 100 out of 10. I think it's a fantastic song. It, never loses its charm or its magic for me. Yeah. Great stuff. Andrew.
Wow, where do I begin? I'll keep it pretty plain and simple, guys. When I heard I've never heard this track before. When I heard this track, Brad,
wow.
I didn't know what I was hearing. I had to listen to this track, no bullshit, guys, at least half a dozen times to work it out. There's just so much going on. You're right, John. It's 10 minutes of all the stuff that's just going on, and I still can't rank it properly because I still don't know the song enough. I've only been listening to it for a week. I've only listened to it a dozen times, Simon, and it's got all the points that I spoke about before. You got all these elements, all these ingredients that you can hear, which I really, really love. And you've got that jazz vibe, which is really, really good, and it's like the mood is he's accomplished something. The song is accomplishing something on the album, but also for the listener. But you've got to work at it. He's not giving you something. He's not giving you a pop song, John. He's not. It's definitely a song that's sophisticated. And Brad, I'd be keen to hear what you have to say about this because there's a lot going on, and it's mind blowing. And this is the best vocal performance on the whole album for me. Side three. You're right, John. Side three, as far as Bruce. Side two. As far as Bruce's vocals, he just gets better and better. And there's a couple of patchy, scratchy songs on side one. And I wonder, if he's just doing that. I don't know. Probably not. But I get that feeling. I get that feeling that he's not deliberately singing his best on some of those tracks on side one. I don't know if he does that, Simon or John. I don't know. I don't know. But I get that strong impression. Brad, I'm still listening to this song, bro. I'm giving this a Brad score because it's just blew me away. I can't believe that this was a Bruce Springsteen song. Just blew me away, guys. Whatever you do, go and listen to this song on this album. If you're watching on a replay and you're skipping to the end because you want to see the conclusion, because sometimes we do that on video, sometimes we skip to the end to see, So, if you're one of those people, if you're skipping to the 2 hour and 22-minute mark, I'm going to say go and check the last song out because it'll blow you away. Brad.
Wow. Well, you fine gentlemen have wrapped this song up. I might as well just pack up and go home. Oh, wait. Look, it's what a closing track to an album. And that's what you kind of expect from a closing track, I think. You bookend with a really powerful track to open the album and a really powerful track to finish an album. It's lush. It's lush sounding. It's got a lot of orchestration going on. The piano, string arrangement, sort of piano vibe thing that's going on. Cinematic again. It's got a soulful sort of ending to the album. That's what brings to the album. Springsteen's vocals again, very soulful, restrained at times. And then obviously his voice, in my opinion, carries the weight of this entire song. The guitars, adding that sort of the texturing in this song. The bass is big, very, very anchoring the orchestration of the song, and the drums are minimal. But obviously, it all comes down to the orchestration of the song, and when I say the arrangement of the song, I should put it. I think it's a stellar closing track, and I spoke about at the start of the show, maybe rearranging a couple of the opening, and then the second track, maybe moving that to third or fourth. But this is definitely the best album closer for the album. I gave it 10 out of 10. Never a skip, guys.
No, definitely. Yeah. It's been a fantastic record to do. I think from my point of view, a couple of, we haven't discussed it, but I'm going to say it now. I think one of the major influences on it is Van Morrison. But if you go listen to Astral Weeks and particularly St. Dominic's Preview, those kind of Celtic soul records with the horns, and you can see there's an echo there, very much an echo with those. So, and we didn't say his name specifically, but I think he is one of Springsteen at this point. He's one of Springsteen's major influences on
Good
this
point.
record.
I'm familiar with that album. Good point.
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece.
Van Morrison. Ooh, back on the list for sure.
It's funny, actually. That's what I was speaking about. His girlfriend at the time, that Diane Lesvito. Apparently, her boyfriend at the time, Billy, took her to see Bruce Springsteen. So Bruce is about 21. She just graduated high school, and he said, "Oh, you got to come and see this guy. You'll like him. He sings stuff like Van Morrison and Bob Dylan." And that's what got her interested to come and see him. So it's funny that you mentioned Van Morrison there.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well done. Speaking about Bob Dylan, guys, don't forget Christmas Day, they're releasing that biopic of Bob Dylan. If you guys haven't seen the shorts, go and check it out. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good for a Hollywood thing. So we just need to wait for the Bruce Springsteen version to come out, John.
What, the one with Timothy Chalamet?
Yeah. Looks pretty good.
Yeah. Well, it was at the end of this month. They're doing there's a documentary, Springsteen documentary, isn't it? It's coming out about his last year's worth of touring and stuff.
Oh, another one. Wow.
Yeah. It's coming out soon. They've been doing a bit of press for it. I'll find.
There you go.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, especially John, for some well appreciated comments and insights into this album. And like I said at the beginning of the show, folks, we are developing a great back catalogue here on some Springsteen albums.
Yeah.
And the next one we got to do is got to be Born in the USA. Has to be. We have to do.
Well, that was the original suggestion for this week, and I'm just thinking if it took us 2.5 hours to get through 7 songs, I'm a bit scared of what it's going to take to get through the 12 songs of Born in the USA.
Probably have to do those, Brad, over 2 shows, bro, I think.
Well, just remember there's 4 people here, so it always takes a bit longer with 4 people. That's
Yeah.
We're
going to have a chat about what Led Zeppelin album we're going to do. We've done most of the studio albums, I think. I think we're going to talk about one, maybe doing part 1 of the live album, I think.
How the West was won.
Yes. Yeah, I think we thought maybe we would do part 1. Are you available, bro, for next weekend?
Who are you talking
Brad?
to?
Brad.
No, I'm away.
So we can't. Okay, so we can't.
Really
so we're not.
To Tasmania.
Okay, so we are not doing Dead Fish. We are not doing Led Zeppelin because we are never going to do a Led Zeppelin show without Brad Cook. It's a rule. It's a rule on the channel. so
I like that. I like that one.
Yeah. It's a rule. So we'll have a chat about what album we are going to do next week. We might have to get John back
if he's available.
Oh, yeah. if you can stand my ramblings for another week, yeah, definitely.
No, I think your ramblings are mighty, mate. So come back, please.
Yeah.
Come back.
So Simon, I might get you to pick an album for us to do next week. If you can give that some thought, please, Rock Professor. I'm going to throw it to you. But I'm mindful of the time, guys. We're going to wind up the show here at 2.5 hours of great fun. We do appreciate if you are watching on a replay. If you've got this far, please subscribe to our channel and to our friends. We'll have some links here. And the Rock Professor is going to do a shout out to everybody that's been here with us on the channel. And I just want to do a special shout out to John ZD351 for jumping on again. And this is a pic, folks, that John sent from what gig? What gig was this, John?
That would have been that's at Hanging Rock in 2017 with my good buddy Matty Brown next to me. As Brilliant. I said, didn't have a sign, so did the next best thing.
Well
there
done.
we were, leaning on the barrier right in front of the stage. We're pretty
Well
much
done.
With
dead
your
center.
own T-shirt on, John. I like that. With your own T-shirt on.
You got to self-promote.
Self-advertising.
That came from. It's like a tradition. That's the shirt that I was always wearing to the Bruce gigs, because we'd be in a crowd of people that we only knew off the internet as usernames in a forum, and so that shirt's been good to me. People have come up to me and going, "Hey, I know you."
Fantastic.
Well done.
You're the bastard on that thread that I want to argue with.
That's it. Come at me, Roy. Often outnumbered, never outgunned.
Hey.
Well, we could do this. You know, Greg Zeppelin's saying we could just get together and talk about Led Zeppelin.
Whatever
Simon?
Yeah, we could.
We'll have a chat anyway. Hit the notification button, and we'll come back tomorrow at least with something.
Cool. I'll say goodbye to everyone. Before Greg Zeppelin, of course, thanks, Grace. With fireplaces, what a fantastic idea. Dead fish cheese bread. Thanks for joining, and thanks for subscribing. It's good to have you on board. I think we had Helene O'Hara. Helene, thanks very much. Take care. Hopefully, we'll see you next week. Brad Cook, Ellen Toll. Ellen, in your absence, take care, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for being here every week. It's fantastic. John Ted D351. Drops, family gun. Drops. Hope we sent you to sleep, as it's 3 o'clock in the morning and where you are. It's quite late, apparently. Go back up. Some bloke called Simon Williams. Tony Bonus. Tony dropped in. Tony back from his travels in Greece, having a fantastic time. We enjoyed that, Tony. Thanks for those. Elaine, Ellen, Gretch, Kevin, some bloke called Kevin, who's being suitably weird. Bent Tom as well. Thanks, Bent, for dropping by. And hopefully that's everybody. I think I've got everybody who made some comments. Thanks all for joining, and we'll see you next week. Something else. Take it away, boss.